Hello, I want to welcome you to Webinar Wednesday. And if you can hear, I would appreciate if you could type in the chat box. That's a way for me to know that you're able to hear. We're scheduled to begin in about 5 minutes, so it'll be just a little bit more and we will get started. Thank you once again for joining us today. Thanks for the feedback in the chat box. I need to step away for just a moment to grab something, but I will be right back. While we're waiting for other people to join us, I encourage you to introduce yourself. I see people already saying hello, but it'd be nice if you could share where you're from. Thank you. We have a great diversity of people on the webinar today. I'm really happy to see that. See people from all over the country. That's wonderful. And different types of programs too. Youth centers, public housing, schools. That's really good to see. I encourage you, as you're looking at all those introductions coming through the chat, if you see something, somebody who has a role that's similar to yours or that you have questions about their role, there is a feature in Zoom where you can do a private conversation with them in the chat box where right now it says to all panelists and attendees. You can select the name of an individual person, or you can just click on their name in the chat box, and that'll let you send a personal message to somebody if you have a question about the work they do, what it's like to be part of a Boys and Girls Club, or if it's somebody that you think you know and you want to say hello. I encourage you to use that feature to connect with other people. Part of our goal with Click to Science PD is to help build your professional network so that you can connect with others who have the same values and interests you do in all parts of the country, because we realize that it's really hard to build a professional network in out of school time. You just don't have a lot of time for doing that, and you're probably working in a very small program without a lot of colleagues directly at your location. So this is an opportunity to connect with others across the country and to learn from their experiences. Today we're going to be talking about social and emotional learning, and some of the people on the webinar today are going to be experts at this. It's already something that they're doing in their program. And for some of you, it's going to be something new, or maybe something you're not even exactly sure what this means. So I encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity to learn from each other at the same time that you're learning from Click to Science. I want to welcome you. It is time for the webinar to begin. So I am so glad that you are here today and that I have a great presentation to talk about how social emotional learning prepares youth for the future. This idea, or this phrase, social emotional learning, or SEL, is something that you may have heard recently. It's becoming much more prominently featured in our work and after school time, and it's important to what we do. First, because a lot of the emphasis of out-of-school time programs is on youth development, helping youth reach their full potential. And social emotional learning is just one of the ways that we can do that. It's also important because there's a growing recognition that students today, children today, need to develop their social and emotional competencies, their skills that help them understand and manage emotion, set and achieve positive goals, to feel and show empathy for others, and to establish and maintain positive relationships, and to make responsible decisions. Those are all skills that we need as adults. And as we move into a future where there's more and more technology and less known about exactly what the future is going to hold, these skills are going to become even more important. Research in our field, and also employers in all fields, are telling us that these soft skills are critical to the success that they need the people who come to them, to college students or new employees in their work, need to have these skills. And the social emotional competencies, these self-management skills, are what's going to help youth be successful in life, to help them find a job that they enjoy, to complete college, to just get along with others in their workplace, and to manage challenges that they face in life. So our webinar today is really going to focus on how we can help youth build these skills through the types of programming that we do in after school time. Let's start by looking ahead and trying to understand the challenges our students will be facing. A recent report by Dell Technologies estimated that 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030, when today's fifth graders begin graduating from college, haven't been invented yet. So what can we do now in our programs to prepare young people for a world that really doesn't even exist yet? Out-of-school time programs are addressing this challenge. They do it through experiential learning, through providing learning experiences that support the development of problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills, and using these skills every day in their programs. Today, we're going to focus on experiences that help children develop social emotional competencies, and how these competencies will be a passport to the future for them. They will help them have the skills that they need to navigate a future and adapt as exciting new jobs are created. So we're really focusing on how to prepare students today for a future that's a little bit unknown and is going to be different and have different challenges than what we face today, but we can give them some skills that they can carry with them into the future. They're going to be important. Since we're focusing specifically on the role of out-of-school time programs, I'm going to start by sharing a video where national leaders in youth development programs are talking about how out-of-school programs contribute to preparing young people for the future. Give me just a moment while I switch what we're sharing so that you can see this video. Sorry, I needed to make an adjustment on my screen in order to be able to do this. All right, hopefully this is going to work. I'm going to start the video and then I'm going to pause it just to make sure that the audio and the video are working for you. I will also include the link in the chat box because I know some of you, if you are relying on internet at work that's not real fast, you may have some trouble with the video. So I'll share you a direct link so that you can watch it that way too if you need to. All right, let's see how this works.
I'm Jennifer Sarangelo, the President and CEO of the National 4-H Council.
Just doing a quick check before we continue. Are you able to see and hear that video? Can you let me know in the chat box? All right, looks like it's working. I'll go ahead and continue.
I'm Jennifer Sarangelo, the President and CEO of the National 4-H Council. STEM programs open so many doors for today's young people and help prepare them for a future that we don't even know what it's going to be. What we know today is going to be very different in 10 or 20 years. And when they're voting, when they're making decisions, when they're making choices, they're going to need to understand that science is an important part of decision making, and to trust that, and to be open, and to learn for themselves.
My name is Pam Garza. I work at YMCA of the USA, and currently I'm the STEM project director. For a young person to go through their life and not be able to solve a problem, they're cutting off almost any future they could have. And it's not just about careers, it's about voting. If we don't have scientifically literate people at the polls, how are they going to decide whether we put a new dam in a place, or whether we raise taxes, around environmental issues? Or they can't make those decisions because they're not literate. We put a lot of emphasis on reading literacy, even math literacy, but very little on science literacy.
Edwin Link, National Vice President for Educational Foundations at Boys and Girls Clubs of America. We think of science as a process, a method, but also just the process of knowing and understanding the world around you. So out of school time is uniquely positioned, and rightfully so, to provide young people really the space to experiment.
My name is Gina Warner. I'm the President and CEO of the National After School Association. As I go around this country and I hear from mayors, they want safer communities. They want better jobs. I talk to law enforcement people. They want safer communities. They want a higher quality of living. I talk to business leaders. They want a diverse and prepared workforce. After School solves and addresses each of those issues. So After School truly is the solution for a safer, stronger, healthier America. So I'm really happy with the work that everyone is doing to ensure that kids get these opportunities, and that we're doing our part to support the leaders in our country.
So what did you notice in that video? Were there things that you could relate to that make you think about how your program is using STEM or social emotional learning to prepare young people? Please share it in the chat box. Any reaction you have to that video, comments or questions, I'd like to know. Does this resonate with you? Is it describing what you are already doing or what you aspire to in your program? I'll give you a moment to respond in the chat box. Some comments I see in the chat box, if you're not looking at it, or for those who are watching the recording, we notice that it's not just about preparing students for a future in STEM, but everyone needs to have an exposure. Everyone needs to be literate in STEM, just as they need to be literate in reading and math to really be successful in life, to think about how important science is in decision making. Helping them build their confidence and leadership through STEM activities can help them in other areas as well. We're really thinking about in some of our areas how social emotional learning is within STEM. And that's the perspective that I take too, that I'm not trying to promote that you do STEM and social emotional learning. I want you to think about how the ways that you facilitate STEM can help students build their social and emotional competencies. And that's what we're going to focus on in the webinar today. These skills, these 10 skills, are what is projected that are essential skills for the workplace of tomorrow, for 2020. According to the World Economic Forum, these are the skills that are going to be needed to be successful in the workplace. As you first look at these skills, I want you to think about, are these the skills that your staff have? Are they skills that they need to develop? Some of you may think about these skills as a way to shape your staff development program. Others may see these as skills that you want to develop in the participants in your program. And what I'm hoping is that by focusing on specific strategies that staff can use to support children in problem solving, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence, coordinating with others, they're going to also develop their skills as they're teaching these skills to children, because as I look at this list, these are really essential skills for after-school programming staff. Coordinating with others, managing people, whether it's getting along with colleagues or managing the children in the program. Cognitive flexibility, because sometimes things don't go as we have planned. All of these are skills that our staff need as well as our children. And one benefit of the social emotional frame for out-of-school time programs is that it helps us identify ways that we can focus on these skills and ways to measure them. Research shows that after-school programs are effective in building skills when they are sequenced, active, focused, and explicit in how they do this. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the webinar as we talk about how you implement these strategies in your program. For now, I want to give a little bit more frame around this idea of social emotional learning, because I realize it's new in our field and not everybody is familiar with it. So what exactly do we mean by social emotional learning? The definition I'm going to share with you today comes from CASEL, C-A-S-E-L, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And they have a lot of resources at casel.org. I encourage you to check out their site and find some more resources there about social emotional learning, what it means, and how you can support it with your staff and with the students in your program. In short, what I mean when I talk about social emotional learning is the process through which children, youth, and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage their emotions, to set and achieve positive goals, to feel and show empathy for others, to establish and maintain positive relationships, and to make responsible decisions. That's a list we talked about just a little bit at the beginning, but that's how we define social emotional learning. And that's where we're going. That's kind of the target we're aiming for. Again, using the CASEL framework, we can identify what these competencies are. These are the skills that help students succeed, and we can use this framework to create the environment in our community, in our schools, in our after-school program to help students build these skills, to describe these skills, and then to be able to assess them or measure them. It's important to understand, as you're looking at these competencies, that social emotional competencies are not innate. They are competencies, just like reading is a competency. They are learned, they can be developed, and they can be improved. And I think that's a really critical perspective that I want to emphasize again. Social emotional competencies are not innate. They can be developed through instruction and improved through practice. So just like we help children build competency in reading through a combination of instruction, practice, and just doing it, engaging in reading, social emotional skills are developed in the same way through a combination of instruction, explicitly talking about these skills, practice, using them, and just engaging in them as we're doing other things. So as we embed these into how we intentionally facilitate the activities in our program, we're giving them a chance to develop their skills. Furthermore, as you think about developing these competencies, remember that they're competencies that are developed by children and adults, that they aren't something that you finish developing your competencies. It's a lifelong effort to improve. So these 5 areas. What exactly do I mean? In the orange areas, self-management and self-awareness. Self-management is what helps us set and achieve goals. Self-awareness is what helps us understand and manage emotions. That's really internal. In the yellow area, responsible decision-making is the strategies we use, the skills to make decisions and to solve problems. And that's related to the world around us and how we interact with it. And then in the green area, social awareness and relationship skills, these are really related to how we interact with the people around us. Social awareness is what helps us understand other people, to feel empathy, to show empathy for others. And relationship skills are those skills that help us establish and maintain positive relationships. So these are kind of where we want to get to with young people. What do we want to help them develop? Now we're going to consider how to make these competencies an intentional part of our after-school or out-of-school programming. As you think about putting these ideas in practice, let's remember 2 important considerations. First, competencies contribute to success, not just in school, but out of school and in other areas of their life. That was something that was mentioned in the chat box too. These are skills that they're going to use in all areas of life, so it's worth the time to invest in them. Second, these competencies are learned and developed. Research shows that programs that are intentional about developing social emotional competencies are successful in doing that in a measurable way. A recent meta-analysis of after-school programs that seek to promote social and emotional skills found that programs were successful when they followed these 4 guiding principles. And the acronym that they use for this is SAFE, sequenced, active, focused, and explicit. And I'll share the actual text of this meta-analysis with the recording of the webinar, but I just wanted to summarize it for you here. So sequence means that the successful programs use connected and coordinated activities to achieve their objective related to skill development. So they were intentional, they thought about how they're going to do this, they coordinated that effort. Active meant that these programs used active forms of learning to help youth practice and develop the skills. So it's not just telling them passively about it, but it's actually giving them opportunities to use those skills. Focused meant that the programs had at least one component or one part of their programming specifically focused to this skill development. It might have been an outcome of the program. It might have been something that they were intentional about doing at a certain time in the program or as part of the regular schedule of activities. So they figured out how to make it fit into the regular programming, not to be something other than what they're doing in the after-school program. And explicit. The programs were clear that they were targeting the development of these skills, and they let families know that that's part of what their program was about. And that's really important because it helps them be accountable, it helps be intentional about it, and sometimes you need to provide that sort of experience so children understand what it is you're targeting, what you're trying to help them learn. So having it be sequenced, active, focused, and explicit is going to make a big difference in your effort in this area. Most of the research, besides the analysis that I'm going to be sharing with you, is really focused on social emotional learning programs in schools, and that's where this one comes from. This is the same researchers, but in a school, looking at school-based programs. But the evidence is consistent and strong enough about the impact of school-based social emotional learning programs that I think we can assume that when the programs are intentional and explicit in after school, we're going to see similar results. We're going to expect to see improvements in pro-social behavior and in attitudes about school, self, and others. This is accompanied by a reduction in problem behavior, reduction in emotional distress. You can picture how all of these things are going to help create the sort of program you want to have for your after-school program. We also saw an increase in standardized achievement test scores. As students developed their social and emotional skills, they were more successful in school, and they were more successful in the academic assessments that are part of school. So this is something that is really important. Social emotional learning matters, and it is worth putting in the effort because it's going to make a difference for the children that you're working with. All right. Now, the last piece I promised, after kind of making this case for social emotional learning, is that I would share with you some strategies to actually do it. How can you facilitate this? And as you're probably not surprised, through STEM activities in your program. So I'm going to highlight 3 STEM activities that you can find on the Click to Science website and talk about how they're going to help staff, or how they have the potential, I should say, to help staff develop their skills and to help students develop these competencies at the same time. The first activity I want to focus on is radioactive golf balls. This is a design challenge sort of activity. You create a scenario around the radioactive golf balls, and the students have the challenge of figuring out how they're going to handle moving the radioactive golf balls from one site to another. It gives opportunities for them to work in small groups and to think about the design process. As you facilitate this activity, if you're intentional about it, you provide opportunities for staff to practice group management skills and to facilitate inclusive learning experience. And you'll find resources on the Click to Science website that can specifically be used to support staff in understanding how group management and creating inclusive learning experiences are part of this activity. As staff are developing their skills, participants are also practicing skills like complex problem solving, coordinating with others, and using their emotional intelligence. And as they practice using these skills, they're developing social emotional competencies like self-awareness and relationship skills. So all of this is done through the framework of a STEM activity that is intentionally facilitated to help staff build their skills and to help students develop their skills at the same time. Let's look at another one. This one is a water filter activity. This one provides another design challenge, but it also has more science content. It gives you opportunities to talk about water, what makes water clean or dirty. And then there's a lot of different materials that students get to investigate and experiment with to decide, to learn how well different materials can help clean water or help filter it. So the activity is structured to provide access to a lot of different materials and to give them, again, that opportunity to investigate, to try it out, to learn on their own. So the skill we emphasize for staff with this activity is asking purposeful questions. And we have PD resources that will help staff plan and prepare questions that they can use in the water filter activity. And then as they're facilitating this activity, they're giving participants opportunities to apply skills for tomorrow, like their problem solving, using their judgment about which materials work and how, decision making, and cognitive flexibility. When they try something and it doesn't work and they have to try a different way, this develops that sort of decision making and cognitive flexibility that's going to help them be successful. And through an experience like this, they can develop social awareness and responsible decision making in the social emotional competencies list. So again, it's about what the activity is, how the staff approach the activity, and the opportunities that you can intentionally provide for students to practice and develop their skills. One more idea to share with you. Developing a STEM project is one of the activities that introduces the project-based learning model, and this adds another element to the activity. Through project-based learning, you are giving youth a lot of control over the learning experience and also opportunities to share that experience with others. And it brings in opportunities to introduce social awareness and self-management into the activity. Now, this particular example from one of the Click to Science videos is a group of children at a summer program that takes place at a zoo, where they're learning about a specific animal and then developing a project that they can share with zoo visitors to teach them about that animal. So the project they've developed here, they're asking some questions, they've got some prizes that they're sharing with the children when they answer it correctly. In addition to what they're learning as they create this project using their skills like creativity, their people management skills as they're working in a small group and working with the public, they're also developing a service orientation. They're interacting with people and using their social awareness to create interactions that are positive. So you're, again, providing a frame within the activity to help youth practice these skills. And then it's important as you wrap up the activity that you talk to them about the skills that they learned, that you reflect and process this experience. What were the skills they used? Maybe give them names for the skills that they're using so they can start understanding those and seeing how they apply in their life. Help them know that social awareness is the skill they use as they're deciding whether or not to invite somebody to participate in their activity, and as they're figuring out how to bring that activity to the level of the learner. All of these are inherent in the learning experience, but you really want to emphasize those and help them see what skills they're applying so they can name it and own it as something that they're able to do. So, what's the next step? In the webinar today, I've introduced this idea of social emotional competencies, or summarized it if you are already familiar with it. And I've shared with you some activities that you can do in your after-school program where youth have opportunities to practice and develop these skills. I talked about the importance of reflecting and processing that experience so that they can name the skills that they're developing and own that for themselves. But we also talked a little bit about how sometimes it's staff that need to develop these skills, that we need to help our staff be more prepared in order for them to be able to facilitate this type of experience. So we've also put together a social emotional learning toolkit that is just staff development resources that you can use with your staff that's going to help build their skills and prepare them to lead some of those activities in the ways that I just was talking about. So the Social Emotional Toolkit is really a collection of existing Click to Science resources and some resources from partners who are experts in this area of social emotional learning. The Castle website I mentioned earlier, and AI can't remember what that stands for, is another great resource. American Institute for Research has some really excellent resources around social emotional learning. So what we've put together in the toolkit is a collection of these resources all in one place in a box folder so that you can help staff develop their skills in knowing how to help youth work together, how to give youth control and see the strengths of individuals in their program so they can develop them, how they can be inclusive and how they're facilitating these investigations so that youth have opportunities to develop those social relationship related goals. So I will share a link to all of these resources along with the recording of this webinar at the Click to Science website. It'll be on our webinar page. If you're looking for it, you'll be able to find that along with other recordings of previous webinars. And we did a webinar just a couple months ago that was focusing on integrating social emotional learning and STEM. So that's another one that you may want to go back and look at. We want to encourage you to think about how you can use webinars like this as opportunities for staff development. Just playing the first part of this webinar where I introduce what social emotional learning is and what these competencies are for your staff, and then spending some time talking about those competencies and maybe looking at one of those activities and thinking about how they can integrate it into your program is a way that you can help build their skills in this area and prepare them to help the youth in your program be successful in developing their competencies. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, all of these resources will be available along with the recording. I am going to stop the recording now, but I want to give you a chance. If you have questions, you can share those in the chat box. Thank you again for joining us today.